On Monday, Karoline Leavitt gave another press briefing where she discussed the severe tornadoes over the weekend, the U.S. attack on the Houthis in Yemen, the French wanting the Statue of Liberty back, Trump wanting to revoke Biden's pardons, Trump's use of the Alien Enemies Act of 1798 for deportations, and finally, she was excited to highlight a new NBC poll that shows that the Democratic Party hit a new polling low, with only 27% of the people polled having a positive view of the party. Karoline said, "It turns out when you let your hatred of President Trump get in the way of doing what's best for America, the people reject you. Who would have thought?" Critics point out that even though this poll is true, once again she fails to reveal other stats from the same poll, including only 41% of the people polled lean Democrat, only 39% of the people polled had a positive view of the Republican Party, 51% disapprove of Donald Trump's actions as president, and 48% would prefer to see a Democratic-controlled Congress over 47% who would prefer to see a Republican-controlled Congress. Critics also pointed out that left-leaning voters aren't upset with the Democratic Party because the party doesn't like Trump. Rather, they're upset with the Democratic Party because they're not fighting Trump harder. Karoline should have known this if she read the article where she got the poll or even read the headline. Critics believe that the White House did know this because on their YouTube channel, they showed a New York Post headline instead of the NBC headline, while Karoline was referencing the NBC poll. The next day, Trump posted that Judge Boasberg was a radical left lunatic judge who was a crooked troublemaker and agitator that should be impeached for temporarily blocking Trump's use of the Alien Enemies Act of 1798 to deport migrants without due process. At the moment, the judge is on a fact-finding mission to assess the legality of Trump's actions. In an unexpected and rare response to this, the current Supreme Court Chief Justice John Roberts said, "For more than 2 centuries, it has been established that impeachment is not an appropriate response to disagreement concerning a judicial decision. The normal appellate review process exists for that purpose. Only 15 judges have ever been impeached in the nation's history, and only 8 of those judges have been removed. Impeachment is rare because it usually occurs in cases of grave ethical or criminal misconduct, and it would take 67 senators to vote for a judge to be removed." Despite that fact, it hasn't stopped House Republicans from filing articles of impeachment against 3 judges who have ruled against the legality of Trump's actions: Judge Amir Ali, Judge Paul Engelmeyer, and now Judge James Boasberg. On Wednesday, Karoline Leavitt gave another press briefing where she discussed the astronauts safely returning back to Earth, Trump's partial ceasefire with Ukraine and Russia, the release of the JFK documents, and lower gas prices as well as increased manufacturing in the US. But the main topic of discussion was Judge Boasberg's block of Trump's use of the Alien Enemies Act of 1798. Karoline defended the Trump administration's stance that they did not break the law and that Judge Boasberg is a partisan activist judge who is blocking Trump's agenda and should be impeached. Karoline elaborated by saying, "Does a single district court judge really have more authority over the commander-in-chief? Absolutely not. Anyone who has ever taken a basic civics lesson can understand that, and it's ridiculous lawfare that we are witnessing." Then when asked if the State Department would release the names of who was deported, Karoline said that they will not release the information about who was deported because they can't reveal details of a counter-terrorism organization for obvious reasons. Critics say that this has nothing to do with a partisan activist judge and everything to do with ensuring that the executive branch is transparently executing their duties within the law without violating anyone's rights, and that anyone who has ever taken a basic civics lesson can understand that. On Thursday, Trump signed an executive order that begins the dismantling of the Department of Education because he believes the agency has failed in its original mission. However, Trump can't eliminate the department without an act of Congress, so everyone is curious what's really going to happen here. In the order, it states that the Secretary of Education will take the necessary steps to facilitate the closure of the department and return its authority back to the states to the extent permitted by law, while at the same time ensuring uninterrupted delivery of services, programs, and benefits. So maybe Trump is trying to make the Department of Education as lean as possible within the law, to make Americans less dependent on it, to make it easier to get the congressional votes that will abolish the department altogether. Critics quickly point out that if this happens, the gap between higher and lower achieving states will widen, class sizes will get bigger, and there will be fewer school programs. The order also said that anyone receiving funding from the department must terminate their DEI programs. So at this point, Trump really isn't sending education back to the states. Rather, he's trying to exert more control over local schools by dictating what they can and cannot teach. On Friday, the Department of Homeland Security said it will revoke legal protection for roughly 500,000 immigrants from Cuba, Haiti, Nicaragua, and Venezuela, setting them up for deportation next month. These immigrants came to the United States under the Humanitarian Payroll Program that legally accepts immigrants from war-torn or politically unstable countries. Every president has used the program since 1952, except for Trump, because he says the program is being abused. This decision is being challenged in federal court, and it's just one of 132 lawsuits against Trump since he took office. The next day, we learned that the IRS and ICE are nearing a deal to confirm the addresses of suspected undocumented workers who have filed taxes in order to find them and deport them. This attempted deal comes after the Department of Homeland Security requested the names, addresses, emails, and phone numbers of roughly 700,000 illegal immigrants, but the request was rejected. The IRS has held the position that if undocumented workers file taxes under ITINs, that their information will be confidential and it's safe to file income tax returns without fear of being deported. So if this new deal is approved, it will be a complete betrayal to migrants who try to prove that they are contributing members of society while they're going through the process to attain legal status. Finally, on Sunday, we learned that Trump put out a memo that threatens lawyers who challenge actions of his administration. In the memo, it prohibits attorneys from engaging in unethical conduct in federal court. But what concerns legal experts is that the president gave the Attorney General the power to determine what's unethical, as well as review the ethical conduct of lawyers over the past 8 years. If the Attorney General determines a lawyer to be unethical, the memo states that the president could revoke security clearances, terminate any federal contracts, or take any other appropriate actions. Critics say that this memo attacks the very foundation of the legal system by threatening and intimidating litigants who aim to hold our government accountable to the law and the Constitution.